Joe and Justin with B&P's Tuning Tuesday, episode 46. We got some cool events coming up here soon. Things
right around the corner.
Mainly being Mod Motor Nationals, I think is one of the bigger events that we have coming up.
Joe's getting a race truck for Mod Motor Nationals.
Yep.
So, all you other truck racers, Joe is going to take you down.
One step at a time, right?
Right, one step at a time. I'm sorry, I'm talking too much junk right now.
There's a red truck that's real fast.
Oh,
truck
yeah.
with a 9-inch and a single turbo.
Yeah, that's serious.
I want to say the guy's name's Mark or something, but that truck's crazy.
That's where you got to do like the flashlight start.
Yeah.
So they don't have time to spool.
Yeah.
Use that instant torque.
Yeah, get off the line.
Yeah, so your truck's got a Gen 2R on it right now. I'm gonna slap a Gen 3 on that puppy and some other assorted mods, right?
Yeah, try and get all that suspension stuff we've had sitting around for 6 months on the truck. Probably longer than that now. Then a couple other things doing to it as well. Gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Gonna be fun. Any
Joe, is yours on? Is mine working?
Yeah, mine's on. Interesting.
Joe, just come real close and just
whisper
yeah.
on the mic pack.
And they said Joe's a little low.
Just don't rub your beard on me.
I'd have to get pretty close to rub my beard on you now. I could probably rub my beard on you from like over here.
I have a few questions. If we want to go ahead and hit them.
Yeah, let's answer some questions.
There's not a lot, but there's a few coming in. Keegan Daly says, hey guys, I will be installing catless long tubes in a few weeks on my car. 17 GT, Gen 3, Stage 3 kit. Made 700 to the wheel on our dyno in June. I currently have an 88mm pulley and running 93. So that's, I guess he just had a comment.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
Cool.
Nope, here it comes. Sorry. He says, would I be able to run an 85mm pulley and BOOSTane to make more power?
Absolutely. We actually just released a video about that on another one of our customers' cars. It's a black Celine. If you check out on the video on that, that's basically what you could expect to make on your car, if not similar. So I want to say that car was around 720 or 750 wheel. They all kind of blur together these days.
Yeah, Dave Duncan's Celine was 750 wheel.
Yeah.
With 85 BOOSTane and and I mean like
long tubes.
You know, I mean 800, 900. It's just a couple pulleys away.
More octane. More octane.
Joe's just saying,
Yeah.
Because Joe does not like to tune stuff when it's on the verge of exceeding the power limit of the stock rotating assembly.
Yeah,
or the octane limit.
I get sketched out.
Yeah.
Unless someone explicitly tells me, yo, I'm okay with bad stuff happening. I want all of it. Okay. Here it is.
I think we had a couple. We got some of those cases pending. I think we have some people that may be looking for that situation. So we'll see how that goes.
We shall indeed.
Jack wants to know, when will the pulley for the 2650 be ready for the F-150s?
I think those are really, really close. They should be in anodize right now. So we should be just like a week or so out on those.
And for what it's worth, the 11 to 17 2650 blower pulleys are the same as current ones. It's only the 18 stuff that'd be different.
Yeah. So 18 and 19 now, Roush 2650 pulleys for Mustang and F-150 is what we're talking about. And I'm pretty sure that's what the person asking the question is referring to. But yeah, all of our 5-liter pulleys for 11 to 17 VMP and Roush 2.3 and 2.65 liter blowers are all the same pulleys. We just had to make bigger ones for the Gen 3 to keep boost at sane levels.
Yeah, exactly.
So we got like a 92 millimeter, which on Gen 3 is like 10 to 11 pounds. And then to make 10 to 11 pounds on a 2.3 liter, you want to run like an 82 millimeter pulley. That's
big difference.
Yeah, big difference.
They're asking about Rebecca's car. We had posted a photo on social media, and it had the motor pulled out next to Rebecca's car. So they want to know, is it getting any goodies for the race or just a refresh?
Oh, yeah. It's getting heads from Brett Barber, and with fancy little tulip-shaped things in them.
Oh, lumpy sticks.
Some new lumpy sticks.
Rubble. Are you using TIVCT?
I am not.
Okay.
If I actually used it much on the track, I would say keep it, but the car makes so much power that to me, TIVCT is good for making more torque, and the car makes so much power, I don't need any more torque on the hit.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, at least we can monitor cam timing with the camshaft position sensors.
Yeah.
Stephen, who asked the question, is laughing with tears. He's cry laughing. Tim wants to know, so what exactly is the horsepower limit of the stock GT500 throttle body?
I wouldn't say that there's necessarily a limit.
How hard can you suck through it?
Are you blowing through it?
Oh, man.
It's just that you get a higher and higher pressure drop across the throttle body as you increase airflow. So like on a stock blower, the stock throttle body is not all that restrictive with the stock pulley, but if
you don't need the air.
Exactly. You're not flowing enough air for the throttle body to be a big restriction, but if you were on like our Gen 3 with a 2.4 and a 15%,
oh god,
you'd probably be down 70 to 100 horsepower on that throttle body.
And you get these really weird power curves where the car makes like 900 foot-pounds of torque and like 600 horsepower.
And then as you start throwing more RPM and airflow at it, it just starts tapering off. So you get a big torque hit, and then power just kind of goes flat.
And you see it in the boost curve. And then when we're doing a lot of development on the dyno, we put a vacuum sensor after the throttle body at the blower inlet, and we see, whoa, massive restriction, negative 3 PSI. We don't have enough air in this engine. But however, this person could be running a Cobra Jet manifold.
Yeah, they could.
Because I heard on the 2018s that the stock Twin 60 is the only throttle body that works on the 2018s with the analog to digital converter box.
Interesting.
And we're actually coming out with a solution to that, which I think will be a big hit in the marketplace because nobody else has done it.
Yeah.
Which our solution is to make a throttle body that has digital electronics on it.
Boom. Say what?
Sometimes the simplest answer is the one right in front of you.
Yep.
Travis says, with a currently stock 15 GT with a little over 54,000 miles, what brand and gapping for spark plugs would you recommend? I'll be doing some bolt-ons next year after I get some suspension done.
I mean, really, if it's going to stay naturally aspirated, you've got a lot of options.
Yeah, I'd probably just go stock Ford, stock gap.
Yeah, just freshen them up.
Even bolt-ons, if you're talking colder intake long tubes, E85, intake manifold swap, stuff like that, they don't really change what the engine needs in terms of heat range of a plug, but I'd say stock heat range, stock cap.
Yeah, simple enough answer.
Wile Coyote, who actually left us a Google review recently. Thanks, Wile.
Hey, I like that name.
I know, right? Wile Coyote said, just wanted to say thanks to Michelle as she sent me 2 tune revisions, and I wanted to thank her for speedy updates. Thanks, VMP fam.
Nice.
Michelle, Wile Coyote says thanks. I think I blew out Chris's eardrums. He's turning the volume down on the
mic.
On the mic.
You're getting turned down.
Do you think Michelle heard us?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Probably not.
She's over
She's
at
like 2 doors down. Oh, she at school today?
She's at school.
Okay.
Lunch today. So I definitely don't think she heard us.
Sorry, that's even funnier.
Sorry, I was in a truck all day yesterday, and then I was in an airplane last night for an hour and a half.
That's not a bad airplane ride, though.
No, it was a really nice airplane ride. Allegiant was on time.
Dang.
The plane made it. This is the phrase that I don't often repeat, but this is one of the great things that Alex said. And he's like, riding on Allegiant is like riding in a 57 Chevy. It gets you there, but who knows how many problems you're going to have along the way.
Exactly. I feel like that's relatively accurate.
Allegiant uses MD-80 airplanes, but there was an airport 20 minutes from where we dropped her car off, and there's an airport 20 minutes from here that Allegiant flies to and from.
Can't argue with that.
Yeah.
Eli wants to know, how dangerous is it to desensitize knock sensors, say like 50%?
Well, Joe and I can have a conversation about that.
Yeah.
Joe told me not to anymore.
I'd say it really depends on what fuel you're using and whether or not desensitizing them is even really worth it.
Yeah, and I think that's like the big question, because like I get pissed off when knock sensors do not do
what I want them to do.
What I want them to do.
Yeah.
They're lying to me.
Exactly. Like at the end of to me, it really depends on fuel and what exactly you're doing with the car. If this is a race car and you're on race gas and you're doing race car stuff, then
just read your fucking plugs.
Yeah, within reason, don't really worry about what the knock sensors are saying if you're using a high octane fuel like that. Just tune the car accordingly for the setup.
I mean, like, you and I have some of this experience between dyno and track, and like we've done stuff over and over again, and with no knock sensors, and it hasn't blown up, it hasn't hurt a piston, we haven't heard any audible knock.
Yeah, we know where things need to be. The good thing about knock sensors is for moving targets, like octane varying from tank to tank.
If you're using pump 93.
Exactly, or people not having their intercooler pumps primed and either being too aggressive with the ACT retard function or not aggressive enough. Because I'm super aggressive with our ACT retard function because I don't want anyone hurting anything. But I've seen cars add in.
Yeah.
When it's like 180, 190 degree downstreams, add in one or 2 degrees, and I'm like, well, it's kind of like validation that our ACT retard function's safe enough, and the knock sensor's thrown a little bit more back in it. But still, at the end of the day, it depends on your setup and what you're doing with the car.
I think it's kind of a sliding scale.
Yeah.
You know, 93 octane, 91 octane, you want to use knock sensors. Mm-hmm. Naturally aspirated with 91 or 93, that's what the car's designed for. Like, they work really freaking good. Mm-hmm. They add and take out timing. Yeah. I've had 3 of the same type of cars, 15 to 17 GTs, on the dyno the same day in the same conditions, and saw various horsepower outputs and timing curves based on the quality of the fuel.
Yeah.
Same calibration.
He came back and said she's on E85 and Moon Boost. We can't get rid of the false knock.
Yeah, if you're fighting false knock on E85, tell the knock sensors to politely go fuck themselves. Yeah,
that's what I would say. Is like Rebecca's last engine, I didn't even bolt the knock sensors into the valley. Actually, her new car has her old block mocked up in it, and it's still got the knock sensors
just hanging out in there
on it. And that's the thing. Like in my opinion, if you're on E85, you're running a ton of timing, a ton of boost. Mm-hmm. Knock sensors won't save your ass anyways. If something truly goes wrong, that shit's going out the side of the block.
Yeah,
honestly,
you don't really have detonation on E85.
Yeah,
it's going to be like a PI type thing if you ever have an issue.
Yeah, it's going to be
or just generate too much cylinder pressure and push a head gasket out, or torch a block or something like that.
I mean, what I'll do on some of those setups is progressively, if I know E85 and C16, we essentially consider unlimited octane, so you're really more working with MBT and some air temp stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's really becomes more of an experience and a feeling thing than I gotta trust a knock sensor. But you can wean yourself off of knock sensors by desensitizing them.
Limit what they're able to pull.
Yeah,
limiting what they're able to add. That type of stuff.
And I'll tell you,
to where at like 1,500 RPM, it can still pull a reasonable amount in case you're part throttle cruising on the highway, you roll into it and you do actually get knock or something, as opposed to wide open throttle.
And I'll tell you, you know what? Here's the success story. Mm-hmm. The F-150 with the blower towing a trailer actually has a huge spectrum of timing that it will tolerate, because when you're towing, it's not necessarily... It's about heat in the chamber, in my opinion, which is not measurable by downstream air temp, coolant temp, or any other traditional mapping methods. Mm-hmm. So live knock control is actually really important, because when the engine's accelerating, gaining RPM, it'll actually take a ton more timing than when it's just cruising at a steady state. Mm-hmm. So I've actually got my F-150 tuned now to where I get high RPM, it doesn't really worry about the knock sensor because I know it'll take the timing if I'm racing it. But if I'm towing, it takes shit for timing. and the knock sensor, I just let the knock sensor do its job down there.
Yeah, it works.
Travis says thanks for the answer, advice, Joe, and Justin he appreciates it a lot.
That's a little long drawn out, but it's a subject we're passionate about.
Yeah, and I think Travis was the other question, I think, unless I was wrong.
Oh, okay.
Before, but still.
Yeah, same applies.
Sometimes they answer a little delayed, by the time they see it.
That's all good.
Brandon Stevens says, hey Joe, what's up, buddy?
Not a whole lot. How about you, Buttercup?
Oh my. Okay, here's one. Gen 1 Coyote, L&M paired intake and exhaust cams. Are the phasers limited in the tune over the stock limits to keep from contacting pistons, or are they safe to test and run as is?
So depends on who's tuning your car. I can't really tell you whether or not your exhaust cam phasing min-max limits are set up for those cams if I'm not the one tuning it.
And on that subject, like we know comp stage 3s, they say you need intake limiters, but that's like worst case accounting for engine wear and like
timing chain wear.
Yeah, timing chains, you know, like where like the chain has a lot of slop in it and weird shit like that. So that's one of those things that's like, it's less of an issue, I think, than people think it is.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's good to have the table set up for it, but if you're just starting the car up, idling it, maybe driving it around a little bit, not quite getting into like too much of the minutia of it, you'll probably be fine. But it's one of those things where it's like a due diligence thing. I like to go in there and change all the min-max limits for the cam phasings.
Yeah, we'll limit it electronically a little bit just to
keep you in a happy place.
Yeah, just to limit our liability a little bit there. But that being said, I do not like limiters because on anything less than like 800 to 1,000 horsepower, you need to be able to advance that intake cam down low to make a lot of torque. That's what TI VCT is there for.
I'm just looking here at some of these. Adam says, I'm about to start modding my 18 and plan on starting with cold air intake, tune, exhaust. If I get a tune from you guys, do I have to buy a revised tune every time I install another bolt-on?
As long as you buy the parts from us, the tune updates are no charge as long as it's within like a year.
Yeah, and the tune updates, if you buy a part through another manufacturer, through another vendor, is $50 an update unless it's like a blower kit, in which case we charge more. The nitrous kit, we charge more.
If you go outside the level of the tune you originally purchased, level 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
But like all our blower kits come with tunes, so you're covered if you buy a blower from us.
Yep.
James says, MT82 ate itself. Would you guys recommend the G-Force gears from Ben Calamer rated for 1,000 horsepower, or should I swap it for a Magnum XL? Goal is 9 to 950 wheel, and will be a half-mile Mexico running car.
Well, Joe, what's your opinion?
I'd have to see like. And if I was in his shoes, I would compare the ratios and the transmission and see which one's more beneficial to my setup. Like, I think if you're going to do half-mile stuff, like a
double overdrive is not bad.
No. I would almost say like an 1112 GT500 transmission would probably be the go-to because you get the 0.63 sixth gear, I think it's 0.8 fifth gear. And so you don't lose a lot of ratio.
Yeah.
But you go to because the 1112s are half overdrive. So it'd be like an 07 to 10 GT500 transmission that gets like the 0.629 or 0.63 overdrive.
It's not as bad for like half-mile racing, but mile racing is freaking your gear ratio going through the mile mark really determines how well you do. Because like I raced my boss in the mile, and I shifted from 5th to 6th, and it's like falling off a cliff in a 2012 MT82. You go from 1 to 1 to 0.7 or 0.68, so you lose like 2,000 to 2,500 RPMs. And luckily the boss has a wide power curve, but I didn't pull more than 20 miles an hour from like, after that shift. And had I been in the power band more, I would have pulled so much more mile an hour. And long story short, I didn't want to re-gear the rear end and make a bunch of changes, so I just ran a short rear tire and just kind of tried to make up for it that way. Still went 181 in the mile.
The thing I like about keeping the MT82 is you keep your clutch, you keep your shifter, you keep your drive shaft, you keep all that stuff.
Well, that's what I was going to talk about too, is that there are some, like, the T56 Magnum's a badass transmission. We know some people that race with it, but there's some weird shit, like weird vibrations people can never chase down.
Yeah. My recommendation, if you're doing half-mile stuff, street stuff, quarter-mile stuff, pick up Calimer's MT82. If you're doing a lot of mile racing or something that the ratios in the T56 Magnum XL or one of the GT500 trans makes more sense for you, then go down that route.
Yeah, double overdrive matters a lot more in mile racing because you figure half mile, you change your rear end gear ratio, and you either, you know, stay in fifth or you shift to sixth, then you're pretty much...
It's all about that balance of tire size, gear ratio, transmission ratio.
Yeah. N over V, like we were talking about last week.
Yeah.
And there's calculators online to figure that out.
True story.
Poor boy wants to know, what is your input on the BBK full-length 1/7/8 ceramic-coated headers for 13 Mustang GT manual?
Same thing. Sounds good.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll do the job, you know. Ceramic coatings only, I think, on the outside, not on the inside. So that if you ever take them off and you tap them on the floor, a bunch of rust will fall out.
Yeah.
But
I'd be curious to see if there's anyone that's doing internal and external ceramic coat.
So, Turn 14, a wholesale distributor, is carrying Kook's headers that are internally and externally coated.
Dang.
Yeah.
Is that the Jet Hot coated ones?
I think so. I think Jet Hot coated.
Dang.
So, Jason Horde, tell us more about that if you're watching.
Russell wants to know, do you offer PATS delete for Coyote swaps?
We can get it done upon request. Yeah. Something would be a special request because we need the PCM to physically flash it.
Daniel says, you guys recommended running regular gas after running E85 for a while on a stock S550, or is that not necessary?
You know, if he said we recommended it at some point.
I think he's saying...
Do we recommend it?
Yeah, sometimes it runs in together. Yeah, do you guys recommend?
I'd say if you're going to store the car over a period of a couple months, run some gasoline through it and park it on the gasoline as opposed to parking it on E85. Just make sure you run and drive the car on the gasoline before just parking it. Like, don't fill the tank with gasoline to store it and then not really run it or drive it to get the gasoline run through everything.
Yeah.
But I'd say if you're storing for extended periods of time, over a couple months, go for a gasoline to store it. If you're under a month, just a touch under 2 months storing it, I'd say you're probably okay doing E85.
Hayden says 15 to 17 or 18 plus for a Gen 3 boosted build. Going for reliability and on 93, sometimes with race gas or BOOSTane. No E85.
As of this time, your only option for Gen 3 is a 15 to 17.
And that car is going to be, like, the new stuff is awesome. It makes a ton of power. Nobody knows for how long. Like, the older car, you can get, like, more off-the-shelf parts. It's going to be less expensive to mod.
Yeah.
It's just, it's awesome to be on the cutting edge, but there's also a lot of cost and headache that goes with that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, shit, we know we can make 700, 800, 900 wheel on a 15 to 17 Coyote with a Gen 3 on a 6-rib off-the-shelf Stage 3 kit.
Mm-hmm.
Wiley says, on my SCT device, what is knock sensor abbreviation? Hope I don't sound foolish, but I can't seem to locate this. I just want to monitor knock values from local gas station fill-ups. Thank you.
If it's one of our config files, it's timing added or subtracted.
Yeah, so like I'm wondering if he's just trying to use one of the SCT-based configuration files, it may not have knock sensor in it.
There's a couple different knock sensor parameters. Yeah, there's actually raw, you can data log the raw reading from the knock sensor, which doesn't really tell you anything.
Yeah, you have to kind of interpolate that.
Yeah.
I would say that if you're using one of our configuration files, the parameter is called knock sensor. There's not really abbreviation for it that I'm aware of besides just knock sensor. If it's negative, it's adding timing. If it's positive, it's pulling timing.
Brandon says, Brandon Stevens, who said, "Hey Joe," earlier, says, "I was the one asking about the plugs SP471 gap for a 2012 NA car running BOOSTane."
Yeah, that's confusing because the SP471s are a GT500 plug. I meant to return your message before I got on here, but you can't run a SP471 in a 5 liter. The total plug length is different 5 liter to GT500.
Well, you probably could. I don't know if it would work good.
Yeah, like you could physically run that plug, but there'd probably be some sort of issue with the way the car runs on that shorter overall length plug, because instead of the plug being in the chamber, it's tucked 3 or 4 threads in.
Yeah, it's probably about this much too short.
Yeah.
So
that'd cause weird things with heat in the head, I'd imagine, and the way the plug wicks heat away.
Yeah. Cold start.
If you are running an SP471 in your 5 liter, I'd recommend changing that as soon as you can. Do a 5 liter plug.
And conversely, don't run a Coyote plug in a GT500 or 4.6 cylinder head.
You'll have a bad time.
Yeah.
Justin says, "Hi Joe and Justin. What's the turnaround time looking like for tune revisions these days?"
Ideal world, 24 hours. There's some cars out there that people have really exotic, weird setups that I kind of have to sit down for a very extended period of time to look at a data log, and I'd say that that's closer to around 48 hours.
And as always, if you have, like, you're trying to get the car ready for a race or something important going on in your life, just call in, let us know. The more we can understand the situation, the more we can help you. But yeah, like Joe said, normally 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah, and if it's been longer than that and you haven't heard from us, reach out to me and let me know, hey, haven't heard anything, because there's some things that slip through the crack, and it's like we think it's assigned to us, but it's not assigned to us, it's assigned to someone else, so we don't ever get notifications on it. So if you haven't received a message back, reach out to us.
I was working on one of those like special cases right before Tuning Tuesday. It's like a stock Cobra, and I looked over the tune that you and the tuning department made, and like, hey, this is pretty much a stock car with a built motor and compression raised 0.5 point, but like that's all they did to it. I'm like, this tune is good, so we'll help you troubleshoot mechanical issues, but like the tune is the tune.
I think I know who you're talking about too, and for the people watching, if you have a problem with a car that is relatively stock, and it's a problem with the way the car is running, and you have a stock MAF, stock injectors, stock fuel pumps, all that stuff, generally speaking, there is something wrong with the car, not with the stock tune. And that guy, we had told him from the rip, he's like, hey, my car's running, So it's one of those situations where we got to make sure everything's right with the car before we start tuning.
You gotta, like, and we've become very good at troubleshooting as remote tuners, very, very good at troubleshooting, but you got to do your due diligence and make sure the car's right too. And we're here to help with that. Just, you
got to be reasonable with it.
Yeah.
We can only see so much through data logs.
Travis says, with oil pump gears and sprocket, would upgrading it be a good idea? Period, or more, so if racing is a more common occurrence?
My thing with oil pump gears, crank gear, has always been, if you're really that worried about it, just do it.
If it keeps you from flooring your car and enjoying it.
Do oil pump gear and crank gear.
On the other hand, ignorance is bliss. They may never break.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that drive completely stock Mustangs that don't read Mustang forums or Mustang Facebook pages with horror stories about people blowing oil pump gears that go out there and race their stuff every weekend. So,
Chad says, have you ever seen an FRPP Coyote swap not allow a crank relearn? No matter if using HPT or SCT. Currently have one not giving a target RPM, and FRPP is saying it's SCT and HPT failure. Thoughts? It's coming from Chad Dowd.
Plot twist, the misfire test is disabled on Coyote control packs.
What?
Yeah.
So they don't need a crank relearn?
No. You shouldn't be getting PO 300s on a control pack because they don't have the misfire test enabled on that ECU.
Misfire test is actually an emissions requirement, and control pack ECUs have no emissions requirements because they did not come in a vehicle with a VIN number.
Because they are off-road use only.
Yeah.
So that's probably why it's not working. Go ahead.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Blake says, interested in remote tuning, but the only issue is that I don't know 100% of all the mods the previous owner did. I know it has a 2.9 Whipple built motor, shorty headers, but don't know specifics. He has an 08 GT500.
So that's a great one, because I think we can give you the things that are most important tuning-wise.
Yeah, to look at, you want to confirm that there's a stock mass airflow sensor in the MAF housing, that there's no Mafia hooked up to it, and
that's important from that area.
Exactly, and you also want to make sure that you can confirm the MAF housing diameter and the model of the cold air intake. We can help with that a little bit with pictures of engine bay and stuff like that. But the other variable we have with cars from that era is injectors. You may read the injector body and see that it's a part number for a 56, but it could be a modified 56 that's a 72. Yeah, dentist drill. All y'all appreciate that.
There were a lot of drilled out injectors back then, and we used them for a little while, but we probably stopped using them by 2010, 2011.
Yeah. So with all that being said, visually try to look at the entire setup. Send us some pictures. Try and get us all the part numbers that you can for stuff like injectors. If you didn't build the car, you're going to probably want to put a set of spark plugs in it, gapped at a known gap.
People with cars that don't know what spark plugs are in them is very frustrating. I'm having a misfire. I'm detonating.
And it's like, you have a boosted car, you need to do boosted maintenance. If you don't know when the plugs are done last, it's time to do them.
Yeah, if you don't know if the fuel filter was ever changed, those little like $20, $50 things, $100 things that make the process that much more long drawn out.
Exactly.
But like Joe was saying, picture the engine bay. Like, we've done all this before. We know all the possible permutations. It's just kind of getting it all down on paper and taking a direction to go forward. And we might recommend, a more modern injector or cold air. We've had some C&L cold airs. They don't have enough range to support more than 600 real horsepower. So if you've got a Whipple 2.9, you really shouldn't have a C&L cold air on it. Yeah, and there's some older parts floating around the internet that people buy to put on their cars that they just got, because it's like, oh, I can buy this new cold air intake for $400, or I can buy this used one for $150. I'm going to get the used one, and they tell us it's a... And we'll just make it work tuning-wise, right, Joe?
There's nothing more infuriating than, just make my parts work. The parts aren't working.
But to sum it all up, basically, combination like that, MAF, injectors, and then the fuel are like the most important things. From there, we can work with that. And another thing I'll say on that subject is, if you're getting any check engine lights currently, I need you to tell me about them before you order a tune, so that we can confirm whether or not that those check engine lights are things that are solvable with the tune, or if they're indicating hardware issues, like either whether it's bad catalytic converters or bad O2 sensors, or that your O2 sensors aren't connected. Those are all things that we can't correct via tune. That's stuff that you got to fix from a hardware standpoint. Yeah.
We have someone else asking about doing oil pump gears. I have a 15 GT with a blower and E45. Would you recommend doing oil pump gears?
If it's going to keep you from enjoying your car because you're scared, do oil pump gears. If you're going to sit on the revometer at car shows or while you're racing on an N2MB watt box, do oil pump gears. If you're going to drive your car like a sane person, occasionally take honeymoon trips to Mexico, then you're probably not going to have a problem. But if you have it in your head that you're scared, it's like having insurance on your car, man. If you're worried something's going to happen, prepare for it. Yeah.
Steven says, I had my long tube headers Cerakoted to keep engine bay temps down. I've seen lots of turbo guys Cerakote the hot side piping as well.
Yep.
Going back to the question earlier.
Yep.
James came back and said, sounds like a built MT82 is the best route for his power goals and half-mile events. Who do you recommend for a built motor to handle 1,000 horsepower? Do I need sleeves? JPC Racing, L&M Engines, MPR, question mark?
We work a lot with L&M, so I'd say that'd be the first person that we'd recommend to have you get an engine built by. If your plan is 1,000 plus, do sleeves. If your plan is 1,000 or less, kind of a toss-up in the air as to whether or not you need sleeves. Chances are you won't need them, but it's one of those things where if you have everything torn down to build it and you got the extra coin to spend on doing sleeves, it's probably not a bad idea.
Someone's sitting there saying we're not live, and I'm responding, yes, we are live. I
can see myself over there.
Yeah, no, you're live. I see it here. It's just there's probably a little bit of a delay, maybe, or maybe because they don't realize that the questions. I'm monitoring 2 channels of questions, so we go back and forth. Maybe that's it. That questions don't happen instantaneously. James wants to know, does VMP have config files on the website that can be downloaded to LiveLink?
We used to have configuration files on the website. I don't believe we do anymore. You would have to reach out to sales support or tuning to get a configuration file for your setup emailed to you.
Ryan says, when it comes to BOOSTane tuning on an NA Coyote, what octane should someone aim for before switching to E85 setup?
I would say don't bother doing anything over 100 octane target on a naturally aspirated car.
Yeah, you don't need much. Coyote on 93, on good 93, is pretty close to MBT.
Exactly. You don't waste your money trying to mix up to 116 octane of 93 in BOOSTane or 91 in BOOSTane. Just target 100 octane and call it.
And that is a situation in which you could data log the thing and watch the NOx sensor, and as long as it's always negative all the way up to red line, you're good.
Yeah.
James says, also, how much power was Rebecca's car making when she trapped her half-mile best? Saw she has the half-mile record in the TVS Facebook group.
Good question. So that was when we still had a Gen 2R unported on the car, and at both times she ran the half mile, she was making about 900 to 950 wheel.
Through the automatic?
Yeah, through the Turbo 400.
Okay.
So I don't know where that falls for the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Her car never dynoed real great.
It traps well though.
Yeah. And we had a 355 gear in the Turbo 400 to get that number. Actually, this year we went to a 331 gear. Last year we ran a 355. They really didn't seem to make a difference at that 900, 950 power level.
Okay.
Travis Schott came back and said, thanks again, guys, for all the insight.
No problem, man.
He had fun beating on his car a little bit on FL2K this year.
Nice, nice. I was out there spectating.
Oh, cool. I didn't make it out there this time. Weekend flew by.
I got my my son quota for the next 3 months.
James says, my 18 Roush supercharged Mustang is disappointingly slow when it is not running at speed through cold air. Possible fixes and tuning would make me not want to sell it. I guess he's asking what possible fixes and tunings that could make him not want to sell it.
We could do a heat exchanger on it.
Yeah, I was gonna say if your concerns are air temp related, the only thing you can really do is get the air temp cooler or add octane so that you don't have to pull as much timing at reasonable air temps.
Stu wants to know comparable boost levels. Would a Gen 2R blower make similar power to the Gen 3 if it were running an ice tank to compensate for the lower efficiency rotors?
No.
No.
Ice is an interesting animal. I don't really see a whole lot more. I don't see better dyno numbers with ice usually. I feel like when you're tracking a car and you have to drive it through the pits, drive it up there, do a burnout, and then make a pass, the ice helps keep the car cooler during that prolonged process. Because a dyno pull, there's just not much heat during a dyno pull.
Yeah, you don't get a lot of that heat from just the residual driving around and parking it and then driving around and parking it stuff.
Yeah.
Just as an FYI to the audience out there, we're cutting this off today exactly at 2:30. So if you have questions, go ahead and start asking them so that way I can have time to get to them and so that the guys have times to get to them.
How much longer we got, Carrie?
We have about 15, 16, 17 minutes. So
We'll get some questions through if I don't talk too much.
Me too.
I have a few questions here, but just letting everybody know that we are cutting it off today at 2:30 on the dot.
Like, share, and subscribe.
Yeah, like, share, and subscribe if you like the station, the channel, and the content. Yogan says he's got a Monoblade FRPP throttle body problems, giving him a CEL P2112. Any thoughts?
Sounds like a throttle stuck open or stuck closed code. That's either a bad TPS or a throttle body that's not responding properly.
Anthony wants to know, or says, hey guys, what's your thought about the max capable rear wheel horsepower about your he says Gen 3R versus the Roush blower. I think he meant either Gen 3 or Gen 2R.
And is he talking 11 or 14 Roush blower, 15, 17 Roush blower, or 18 Roush blower?
Yeah, no details.
You just want to go for the, kind of hit all three quickly?
Yeah, I mean, Roush has a 2650 for 18, but it's not really in a configuration to push a whole lot of horsepower.
So he just came back and said he's asking about the request that we saw on Instagram, who is claiming over 1,000 rear wheel on the Roush head unit. So that must be where it's coming from.
Oh, that's fake news.
On the, was it an 18 Roush head unit? Or?
I think it's a 15. I think it's 15 to 17 car.
Yeah.
Who claims 1,000?
He says 15 to 17.
Yeah.
I guess he's saying the person who made the request on Instagram of us.
Oh yeah.
Is claiming that made over 1,000 on a Roush head unit.
Oh yeah. We'll bring it, if he comes down here, we'll break his heart, and then we'll show him how to really make 1,000 rear wheel horsepower.
Yeah, I think I saw a video that someone made of their Roush 2300 car that made like 800 pound-feet of torque and over 1,000 horsepower, over 900 pound-feet of torque or something. And I was like, I saw the setup and I'm like, that didn't make that.
I mean, you need a lot of, to string out a 2.3, you need a lot of spin the thing hard with 8 rib or 10 rib kit. There's just a lot of stuff that has to happen.
Yeah, and you're sorry, not sorry, but no, that didn't happen.
Yeah. We've seen, basically put things in perspective, our Gen 3 max effort to max effort makes another 150 rear wheel horsepower. And in if the 2.3's not max effort, it's definitely easier to get closer to max effort with the Gen 3. It makes the power more easily is what I'm trying to say. We've seen 1,100 from the Gen 3.
And I've seen 900 from a Roush blower, but that's like max effort, 900 wheel. You're not talking a stock compression engine making over 1,000 and over like 800 or 900 pound-feet of torque.
Yeah.
So the same gentleman is coming back, Anthony's coming back and said, why need the Gen 3 if he's making that much power off a Roush? Maybe he'll make 2,000 with the Gen 3.
Maybe 3, actually.
That's what I'm thinking.
I think the Gen 3 will triple his horsepower. Can't even say that with a straight face.
So anyway, moving on. Casey says, when will you finish the 2012 GT500 build? We stopped on the Gen 3 supercharger without the headers and full exhaust.
I think the shop's getting some O2 sensor issues worked out with that car. Do you know how that's going, Joe?
Donnie put a new O2 sensor in it.
You gotta drive it and see if it's still messed up.
Yep. Gotta drive it, see if the O2s are still reading funky.
Anthony came back and he says, lots of clickbait, feelings hurt.
I don't think their feelings are hurt. They were probably still successful. There's people talking about it.
Travis Schott says it was a blast, Justin. Next month on the 10th is Cletus and Cars, which is a blast also.
Nice.
Talking about FL2K.
FL2K.
Cool.
It looks like Billy says, is there a larger intercooler core that can fit into the VMP Roush lower intake?
We are working on those.
And I think he's speaking specifically in reference to 18 or speaking in reference to 15 to 17, because I think Billy was the guy asking about the 2650 stuff.
Yeah, the 18 is all different, so we're looking into those too.
Yep.
Jason says, I attended a high-performance class back in 2012 and was always told not to rely on knock sensors when tuning. But today I hear everybody talk about using the NOx sensors to help with tuning.
They're a great thing to have on pump fuel when you're talking about high performance stuff like race engines or stuff on race gas. They aren't the be all end all in determining whether or not you're actually having issues or not.
Tyler Weir wants to know, what are your thoughts on the BBQ tick?
The what? The barbecue tick that people are talking about on the 18s?
Yeah, he said BBQ tick, so barbecue.
I don't know. I haven't experienced it yet, so I can't really say what it is or not.
Philip says, what do you think about compound boost setups like the 0304 Cobras with stock blowers equipped with twins?
I think that it's something that's been done a lot, but I haven't really seen it done extremely well, or at least not presented to be done extremely well.
It's complicated. Like,
I'm excited to do it on another car just to see what it does, but in reference to specifically Hellraiser and some other stuff, I feel like they were dealing with some restrictions on the blower side of things, on the intercooler side of things. I feel like there's things available in the aftermarket now to do something like that a little bit better than what was done back then.
I'll tell you, the ultimate car for that is the Ford GT. Because the muffler is like this far away from the air filter and the throttle body, so you just replace the muffler with a set of turbos and you just blow that right into
the blower.
Yeah.
Joe says, so I have a 14 GT500 at 840 to the wheel and 856 torque. Should I push the envelope and go after another 30 to 40 by going with a larger throttle body and larger cold air? Traction is an issue. What do you guys like as far as drag radials?
To know whether or not you need to push it further, I kind of need to know where you're at throttle body and cold air wise to tell you whether or not it's going to be worth another 30 horsepower. Let's just say we're talking JLT 123 or PMOS 120 and a Ford Racing Monoblade. It seems the common upgrade path for those guys is like an XBA 168 and a PMOS 149 or a JLT 148. The difference between the Monoblade, the 168 at that level is probably closer to that 15-20 horsepower than it is the 30-40 it sounds like you're looking for.
And I actually tested all that stuff on Rebecca's car one time when it still had a 2.3 on it. And the cold air, with the bigger cold air, was worth like 5 to 8. And going up, from the standard, call it the Cobra Jet Monoblade style size.
The standard GT500 footprint.
Yeah, with opening size, which is 13 square inches, to something in the 15 to 17 square inch range is like another, like you said, 15 to 20. It's power that's only above like 5,000 RPM. Just to keep that in mind too. So yeah, I mean, you're kind of running out of the well to draw from. I don't know if this is a stock engine car or a built motor.
I was going to say the next thing I would look into as opposed to that stuff is cams.
Yeah.
Expensive, but you get a pretty good return on investment for cams at that level.
Or Gen 3 is more efficient, doesn't need as small pulleys.
Probably won't need cams unless you really want to turn it up. But yeah.
Anthony says, so when can I get your blower for my 18? When are the 18 to 19 kits coming? He hates to go with a Vortec.
We'll have some stuff out next year. Early to middle of next year, not like this time next year.
Hot baby daffodil.
Travis says, one of the mods I'm planning on is a ported 18 manifold. Is there any benefit adding a GT350 throttle body?
So I've been talking with our porting guy about that. There could, like, we haven't seen gains with like adapter plates on stock manifolds and stuff like that, because I think that's what you were starting to say, Joe, is that we tested all that stuff. But if you have the right synergy of mods, things that complement each other, then there could potentially be some gains.
Casey Jones says, I am building the same setup and would really like to see the results. Hold on, I'm trying to see what he's pertaining to. I'm in the process of buying the Gen 3 blower from you guys and trying to get the performance parts put on before I trailer it to you. So apparently he's bringing it down here, but I don't know what setup he's referring to.
Maybe the GT500 setup?
I'm not sure. Maybe something better handled via support ticket Can't get all the info there.
The 2012 GT500.
Okay.
So he's building a similar setup as our 2012 GT500.
Well, I'm just going to throw this out there. We love featuring customer cars and videos.
True
So
story.
if we don't get ours done soon enough, you're welcome to come down here and we'll do a whole video about it, and Joe or I'll talk about it. And
all the things.
Yeah.
Fady wants to know anything that might work on a 16 V6 supercharger-wise.
I think ProCharger has a kit.
Yeah.
There's speed density though, so you need to go to a 2 or 3 bar map sensor. Our buddy Mike at MPT probably has the most experience tuning those speed density V6s.
Yeah.
We never really messed with them.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever bothered writing a tune for one.
It's a very, very niche market, and the speed density, it takes so much longer to map out than mass air that we just can't justify the development time for that particular application.
Yeah.
Casey says his 12 GT500 is coming this way in January.
Oh, awesome.
Nice.
So cool.
It will be boost weather come January.
Yep. Everyone down here is going to be so happy. You guys are going to be crying up north because you're looking out and you see piles of snow.
And I just want to level with everybody. My 2012 GT500 that we did all that stuff on, it was MF in boost weather when that thing made 800 uncorrected. So even though we've got long tubes on it now and stuff like that, we've got to look at the numbers very critically until that boost weather comes around again.
Exactly.
James Sluter says, I know Sean at AED helped design the L&M intake-only cams. How is the camshaft profile able to gain power across the entire RPM range without sacrificing low and mid-range power? Any VMP results?
Gulp, gulp, gulp.
Yeah, basically it's a combination of like the ramp rate on the cams mixed with a little bit of duration. But that's the beauty of TI-VCT, is that you can still maintain the torque down low and get gains from more duration in the way that you're ramping the lobe in and out up top.
So when I was making the gulp, gulp, gulp noise, I look at this as a window that's moving in different areas based on cam advance, and then of course the ramp and the duration, like Joe said. Coyote's factory camshafts are just tight. That window they let the air in is very small. There's a lot of opportunities there.
Yeah.
Travis, who was talking about one of the mods he's planning on doing is the ported 18 manifold and was asking about the GT350 throttle bodies, says thanks to both of you. He's also doing PMS cold air. Is it LU47 and possibly E85 for racing? Maybe long tubes from Texas Speed. Its stock cats would end up slowly dying. I just had a comment, let you know.
Nice, nice.
Richard says, hi guys, doing a great job. Question, planning on having you working on my car hopefully by the end of the year. My question is, I'm wanting to put a built motor in my 07 GT500. It has about 8,000 miles on it. What do you recommend putting a whole new built motor in, or taking out my original stock motor, get it built, which is a better deal for the money wise, and so on?
It depends on where the resale market is for stock engines and GT500s. Buying GT500 heads is very expensive, especially since the point in time in which they originally came out, they're relatively cheap. And they've gone up, what, double since they came out? I'd say if you don't have to drive the car every day and you can deal with the car being down for a couple months for engine work and time to install, uninstall, it doesn't physically take that long, but that's usually how long projects like that end up taking when you look at it in a real-world situation. If you can be without the car for a couple months, I'd say send the engine off, have the internals replaced, have the heads cleaned up, and then throw it all back together, as opposed to buying a brand new crate engine, per se, that's already built, just because you don't have to worry about trying to resell your stock engine or dealing with any of the shenanigans that come with trying to resell an engine to someone, you being worried about them installing it right, having issues, PayPal chargebacks, all that type of stuff. To me, it's less headache to have an engine R&R'd and have it forged and have it brought back to you as your original engine, numbers matching, all that fun stuff GT500 owners like to throw around.
And And it's really just pistons, rods, and hone and deck.
Yeah, there's nothing too crazy there unless you start wanting to do like head porting or camshafts or really exotic stuff that I feel like for most guys isn't necessary.
Yeah, I mean, just get it beefed up, you know, maybe put some decent bump sticks in it.
Yeah.
And go make 1,000 horse. I mean, I hate to say it, but we do it every day here.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
Yeah.
Melvin Vega in Puerto Rico says, I'm really looking forward to getting the Gen 2R for his 12 GT 6R80. He says, boost, baby.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
And with that said, we have exactly 1 minute, and we are done with questions. So,
Well,
like, share, and subscribe.
yeah, like, share, and subscribe. We got all kinds of new videos coming out. I'm watching the guys edit them while we sit here, so keep an eye out for lots of content.
If you guys have anything specific you want a video of or want us to talk about, make sure to reach out and let us know. The more people that ask for the same thing to be talked about, the more likely it is that'll get talked about. But I guess until then, you guys stay safe out there. I know Hurricane Matthew's fixing to come through Panhandle, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina region. It's got a little straight shot up there. Everyone be safe out there. Have a good week, and we'll see you next Tuesday.